Good evening, America. Tonight, we do not just bring you a story. We bring you a nightmare. One that is unfolding right now in Moreno Valley, California. A nightmare that began with the disappearance of a 7-month-old baby named Emmanuel Haro, but has now revealed something much darker. A family shrouded in secrets, a father with a violent past, and children still trapped in danger. This is not just a case of a missing child. This is the story of a monster hiding inside his own home. A father who once left his newborn daughter permanently disabled. A father now linked to the abuse of a 2-year-old child on the very same day Emanuel vanished. A father who was nowhere to be found when every second could have saved his baby's life. And as the courts grant him bail, the question tonight is chilling. If this man could hurt one child, then 2, what will stop him from destroying the rest? America, this fight is no longer just about Emanuel. It is about saving the children who remain alive today, and their time is running out. On the morning baby Emmanuel Haro disappeared, something was already deeply wrong inside that household. Authorities confirmed that all 6 Haro children were supposed to be at a football event that day, yet in the same hours when Emmanuel vanished, a 2-year-old sibling was reportedly abused inside the Haro home. How is that possible? How can 6 children be at an event while one of them suffers abuse at home? The contradictions are glaring, and they point to a family hiding secrets darker than anyone first imagined. And then comes the father, Jake Haro. Where was he in those first critical hours? While neighbors, friends, and the community searched desperately for baby Emanuel, Jake was nowhere to be found. He only appeared later, when it was too late to trace Emanuel's last steps. This same father already has a history soaked in violence. Court records show he once abused his infant daughter at only 10 weeks old, leaving her permanently disabled. And yet here he was again, in a home filled with 6 young children, including Emanuel. Now ask yourself, if Jake could permanently harm a baby before, what stopped him from doing it again? If he could vanish when Emanuel needed him most, what does that tell us about his role in this tragedy? Act 1 exposes the cracks the moment Emanuel disappeared and the dark shadow of a father with a past that cannot be ignored. When investigators pulled back the curtain on the Haro family, the pattern was impossible to ignore. On the same day Emanuel was reported missing, August 14th, deputies responded to a child abuse call at a Moreno Valley address on Cottonwood Avenue linked to the Haros. A 2-year-old child from the family was then placed into protective custody. That's not rumor, that's in the public record of the investigation. This isn't a one-off. Jake Haro has a documented past. In 2018, he was convicted of willful child cruelty after a 10-week-old infant suffered severe injuries doctors said were consistent with abuse. In 2023, he pleaded guilty to child neglect. And in 2024, he was charged with a probation violation tied to a firearm. That's a trajectory of violence, not speculation. Meanwhile, Rebecca Haro's public statements have conflicted with evidence, and investigators say the couple stopped cooperating after inconsistencies were flagged. This is why authorities now presume Emanuel is dead and have charged both parents with murder and filing a false police report. Added up, a fresh child abuse response the day Emanuel vanished, a prior record of violence against an infant, and a timeline that keeps shifting. The pattern points to a home where harm kept happening and to a baby who never got the chance to be safe. If we are to be honest tonight, America, then we must face the facts. Emanuel's disappearance was not an isolated tragedy. It was the climax of years of abuse, lies, and manipulation. Let's go back. Authorities have documented that Jake Haro once abused a baby as young as 10 weeks old. That child survived, but her life was never the same. Today, she is still living with the scars of what he did. This was not a mistake. This was not an accident. This was the act of a man who had no mercy, no conscience, and no heart for the innocent. Now fast forward, years later, Jake is still in his home with 6 children. children. He is supposed to be in programs for child abuse behavior, but instead of seeking healing, what did he do? He became even more dangerous. The very system that should have kept these kids safe allowed him to continue living with them unsupervised. And now one baby is dead and another, a 2-year-old sibling, was abused on the very same day Emanuel vanished. Ask yourself this: how can a man's child vanish while another is being abused in the same house, and he conveniently disappears during the critical hours of his son's disappearance? That is not coincidence. That is a pattern. A monster doesn't suddenly appear. He shows himself over and over until finally, the worst happens. Even the mother, Rebecca Haro, raises questions. She has refused to take a polygraph test, the very test that could have cleared her name. Why? Because silence protects the guilty, and in her silence, her children continue to suffer. So what do we see? A father with a history of child abuse. A home where a child was abused on the same day Emanuel vanished. A man who was mysteriously absent in the first hours of his son's disappearance. A mother who refuses to cooperate fully with investigators. America, put those pieces together, and what do you see? You see not just negligence, but the cold, calculated hand of a man capable of anything. And if Emanuel was taken from us, then who is safe in that home? If we do not raise our voices now, if we do not demand justice, then the remaining children may never have a future. This is no longer just Emanuel's fight. This is a fight for all 6. Inside the courtroom, the truth became even more unbearable. Jake and Rebecca Haro did not sit as grieving parents seeking answers for their missing 7-month-old baby, Emanuel. Instead, they stood as defendants, facing charges of child abuse and neglect. And then came the moment that left many in shock. The court granted them bail. Think about that. While one child is missing, while another child was confirmed abused, and while evidence of past abuse and criminal behavior hangs over Jake Haro's head, he was allowed to walk free. Rebecca too. Free, while Emanuel is still gone. Free, while those remaining innocent children are left vulnerable. The next court date is now set for Thursday, September 4th. Until then, these parents are not behind bars. They get to go home, while Emanuel never did. They get to breathe freedom, while Emanuel's life was cut short. I was there in court, and I can tell you, the silence was heavy. The system felt too slow, too weak in the face of such evil. And it reminded me of one thing. If we don't raise our voices louder than ever, these children may never get the justice they deserve. So I ask you, how can a father with a history of child abuse, illegal weapons, and violent behavior be allowed another chance outside of jail? How can a mother who refuses a polygraph, who shields the truth, walk free while her children suffer? This case is no longer just about one missing child. It is about all the children in that house. Emanuel's voice may have been silenced, but his siblings are still crying out for rescue. America, please listen to me. Those children are not safe anymore. Not with that monster father, not in that house where Emanuel vanished, not in the care of people who have already proven they cannot protect them. If Jake Haro could abuse a 10-week-old baby girl until she was left permanently disabled, if he could abuse a 2-year-old child on the very same day Emanuel disappeared, and if he could walk free with bail while his 7-month-old son is still missing, then what will stop him from striking again? I feel the weight of this as a parent, as a human being, as someone who stood in that courtroom, and I need you to feel it too. Because if we don't act immediately, if we don't raise our voices, another innocent child in that home may not survive. This is where you come in. Do not just watch and scroll away. I need you to subscribe to this channel, not for numbers, but to keep Emanuel's story alive. Every subscription, every share, every comment is another voice shouting for justice when the system seems silent. Now I ask you, do you believe justice is being served right now? Do you think those children should remain in that house with their father? If this was your child, your sibling, your grandchild, would you sit back quietly? Drop your answers in the comments below. Let the world see that we are not blind. Let the Haro see that Emmanuel's life mattered. Because tonight, we are not just crying for a missing baby, we are fighting for all 6 children in that house. Say it with me. Justice for Emmanuel. Justice for the 6 children.